Discover the hidden truth behind Jesus' encounter with the demons who begged to enter the pigs. This story, found in Matthew 82,834, Mark 5,120, and Luke 82,639, reveals profound lessons about spiritual authority, the battle between good and evil, and God's love for all humanity. In this video, we explore Jesus' encounter with the demons who asked to enter the pigs, revealing profound lessons about spiritual power and human choices. When the demons encounter Jesus, they immediately recognize his divinity and call him the Son of God. They show fear in the face of the authority and power that Jesus possesses over the spiritual world. This encounter reveals the clear distinction between the demons' knowledge of Jesus' identity and their defiant attitude toward him, showing that even evil beings recognize the superiority of the Son of God. When the demons approached Jesus, they cried out, "What do you want with us, Son of God? Have you come here to torture us before the appointed time?" Matthew 8:29, Tori. This question reveals that demons acknowledge Jesus' sovereignty and absolute power. Yet, even in the face of his authority, they choose to challenge him, reflecting their rebellious nature. From Jesus' perspective, this moment was not only about freeing the possessed men, but also about demonstrating God's power over the spiritual realm. He knew the demons sought to cause further destruction, but his permission for them to enter the pigs illustrates the frailty of evil against divine holiness. Jesus used this event to bring freedom and show God's love. After the demons acknowledged Jesus' authority, they begged to be sent to a herd of pigs that are grazing nearby. Upon receiving Jesus' permission, the demons leave the possessed men and enter the pigs. The herd, consisting of about 2,000 pigs, is overcome with madness as soon as the demons enter them. The pigs run wildly toward a cliff and throw themselves into the Sea of Galilee, where they drown. This event demonstrates the power of demons over earthly creation and how their evil presence can wreak havoc even among innocent animals. When the demons entered the pigs, the herd rushed down the steep bank into the Sea of Galilee and drowned. This scene demonstrates the destructive impact of evil forces, but also reaffirms Jesus' ultimate authority. As he declared in John 10:10, "The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I have come that they may have life, and have it to the full." After the destruction of the pigs, the locals are shocked by what has happened. Instead of marveling at Jesus' power over the demons, they focus on the economic loss represented by the death of the pig. Their materialistic preference reveals an inversion of values, placing financial interests above the spiritual importance and well-being of the possessed people. Instead of acknowledging the miraculous deliverance of the men from demonic dominion, they ask Jesus to leave the region. This reaction highlights their spiritual blindness and lack of understanding of the true meaning of the events they have witnessed. The Gadarenes, witnessing this event, focused more on the economic loss of the pigs than the spiritual liberation of the men. This reaction highlights how attachment to material possessions can obscure our perception of the divine. Jesus teaches us in Matthew 6:33, "But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well." He saw the Gadarenes' response as an opportunity for reflection on their priorities. As we analyze the interaction between Jesus and the demons that inhabited the two possessed men, we can observe the duality between the divine power of Jesus and the evil nature of the unclean spirit. While the demons recognized Jesus' authority as the Son of God, their intention to enter the pigs reveals not only an attempt to escape the impending judgment, but also a demonstration of the influence of evil over the earthly creation. The demons' choice to seek refuge in the pigs highlights the chaotic and destructive nature of demonic forces, contrasting with the peace and control that Jesus exercises over the spiritual world. This episode reminds us of the constant battle between good and evil, evidencing that even in the face of the rebellion of the evil spirits, the redemptive power of Jesus prevails to free those who seek his grace. Jesus' choice to perform this miracle in a Gentile region reflects his inclusive love. He came to save everyone, As John 3:16 states, "For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but have eternal life." This act demonstrates that the gospel transcends cultural and ethnic barriers. We can highlight the scope of Jesus' mission to include the Gentiles, represented by the inhabitants of the Gadarene region. This passage not only illustrates the universality of the gospel, but also challenges the cultural and ethnic barriers that might otherwise restrict the message of salvation. Jesus' encounter with demon-possessed men in a predominantly Gentile region highlights his compassion and redemptive power beyond traditional boundaries. The Gadarenes' response to the miracle reveals not only their incredulity in the face of divine power, but also their reluctance to accept the spiritual transformation offered by Jesus. This narrative invites us to reflect on our own willingness to receive God's grace, regardless of our background or cultural context. From Jesus' perspective, freeing the possessed men was an act of mercy and a testimony for the region. He gave them purpose, saying, "Return home and tell how much God has done for you." Luke 8:39. This instruction emphasizes the importance of personal testimony in spreading God's kingdom. As we delve deeper into the narrative of the deliverance of the demon-possessed men, we are confronted with the reality of the spiritual battle that permeates the earthly world. The interaction between Jesus and the evil spirits highlights not only the divine power of the Son of God, but also the intrinsic nature of evil that seeks to corrupt and destroy. While the demons acknowledge Jesus' sovereignty, their desperate attempt to find refuge in the swine reveals the cunning and desperation of the demonic forces in the face of imminent defeat. This episode underscores not only Jesus' authority over the spiritual world, but also the continued need for spiritual vigilance and discernment to resist the wiles of the enemy. The deliverance of the demon-possessed men symbolizes not only an act of divine mercy, but also a vivid reminder of the eternal conflict between good and evil, in which Jesus emerges as the victor who brings hope and redemption to those who seek his light. This episode also highlights the spiritual battle we face daily. Jesus reminds us in Ephesians 6:12, "For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world." He calls us to trust in his authority, knowing that through him we have victory over evil. While the Gadarenes asked Jesus to leave, he respected their choice, showing that God never forces his presence where it's not welcome. Yet his compassion remained evident, as the freedmen became living witnesses of his grace. When we reflect on the inclusion of the Gentiles in the message of salvation brought by Jesus, we are confronted with the universality of divine love. The passage of the demon-possessed men through a predominantly Gentile region highlights the boundless compassion of Christ, which transcends ethnic and cultural boundaries. Jesus' encounter with those who were on the margins of society demonstrates his mission to restore and redeem all peoples, regardless of their origin. The reaction of the Gadarenes to the miracle reveals not only their resistance to spiritual transformation, but also the urgent need to recognize the saving power of Jesus. This narrative challenges us to welcome divine grace without prejudice or exclusion, embracing the liberating message that extends to all humanity. The destruction of the pigs and the men's deliverance serve as powerful reminders that while evil exists, it will never prevail against God's power. Jesus declared in John 16:33, "In this world, you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world." As we delve deeper into the message of redemption brought by Jesus, we are confronted with the urgency of abandoning the bonds of sin and following the path of light. The encounter between Jesus and the demon-possessed men highlights not only the divine authority over evil forces, but also the pressing need for each individual to turn to Christ for deliverance. The narrative of the demons asking to enter the pigs reveals the deceptive nature of sin and its capacity to cause destruction. By choosing the flock as their refuge, The demons demonstrate their desire to perpetuate chaos and oppression over God's creation. This episode reminds us of the importance of recognizing our weaknesses and seeking the salvation that can only be found in Jesus. The central message of this passage is clear: we must renounce sin and accept the transforming grace that Christ offers, allowing His light to dispel the darkness in our lives. This story challenges us to reflect on our own priorities. Are we focused on earthly possessions or seeking God's kingdom? Do we let fear and material attachment keep us from the spiritual transformation Jesus offers? As we explore how the inclusive message of Jesus and His apostles overcomes cultural barriers, we are confronted with the radical transformation that the gospel brings about. The narrative of demon-possessed men in a predominantly Gentile region highlights the universality of divine love and the call for reconciliation among diverse peoples. Jesus' encounter with those on the margins of society not only reveals His boundless compassion, but also challenges the social structures that segregate and discriminate. The Gadarenes' reaction to the miracle highlights not only their resistance to the message of salvation, but also the urgent need to recognize our shared humanity under the redemptive grace of Christ. This passage invites us to reflect on our own attitudes toward diversity and inclusion, reminding us of Jesus' universal call to love and welcome all our brothers and sisters in faith. Jesus invites us to remain vigilant and confident in His protection. He assures us in Matthew 28:20, "And surely I am with you always, to the very end of the age." This truth gives us hope to face any spiritual battle. As we conclude this journey through Jesus' encounter with the demons who asked to enter the pigs, we are challenged to reflect on the spiritual battle present in our own lives. Just as the possessed men were freed from demonic oppression by Jesus' divine intervention, we are invited to examine the areas in our lives where evil tries to prevail. The story of the demons seeking shelter in the pigs reminds us of the subtlety with which the enemy seeks to infiltrate our choices and divert us from the path of truth. In light of this story, we are encouraged to strengthen our faith, resist temptations, and seek the restorative presence of Christ in all areas of our existence. May this story inspire us to remain vigilant against the wiles of the evil one, and to seek refuge in the redemptive grace of Jesus, which leads us to true spiritual freedom. Subscribe to the channel for more inspiring content about biblical messages. Comment below sharing your experience of God's presence in your life. May the lessons learned from this biblical account guide us in our search for a life more aligned with the teachings of Christ. May the peace and blessing of the Lord always be with us.